Grab your tinfoil hats, guys, because in this episode we're going to use photography to debunk two of the biggest conspiracy theories around: the fake moon landings and the flat earth theory. Let's go. So there's always been conspiracy theories around. Everything from aliens to the assassination of JFK. There will always be some people that don't truly believe the official story. They'll always believe there's some major cover-up going on. So in this video we're going to use photography to try and debunk the conspiracy theories. Let's start with the moon landings. So, if you believe the official story, in July 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first humans ever to walk on the surface of the moon. If you believe the conspiracy theories, however, in July 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became two men who walked around a studio in front of a camera. Now, there are several arguments that conspiracy theorists like to use as to why they think the moon landings were faked. One of the big ones is to do with the photographs that were taken on the surface of the moon. So if you look at the official NASA photographs taken on the surface of the moon, you will notice that there are no stars in the background. Conspiracy theorists argue that if these photographs were actually taken on the moon, you would be able to see a lot of stars in the background of the picture. Except that's just not the case, and we can use the principles of photography to explain why this is so. There's one very big clue as to why there are no stars visible in the NASA photographs. Because the moon is completely lit up, which means the sun was out shining on it, which means it was essentially daytime when these pictures were taken. As a result, the camera would have had to have been set up to expose correctly for daytime on the lunar surface. Now, if you take an average photograph on Earth during the day, you'll probably find your settings along the lines of ISO 100, aperture of f5.6 and a shutter speed in the hundredths of a second. Now, if you kept those exact same settings that you used in a daytime shot and took a photograph out at night, you wouldn't see any stars. Because there's only a tiny amount of light reaching Earth from those stars, you need a much longer exposure in order for the camera to detect those stars. So you'd probably have settings more like an aperture of f1.4, f2, ISOs well up into the thousands and a shutter speed in the seconds. If you try to use those shutter settings during the day, you're going to wind up just blowing the exposure completely out and you're not going to be seeing anything apart from sheet white. Seeing stars on the moon is no different than seeing stars on the Earth. You're only going to see them at nighttime in a dark environment. Next up, the flat Earth theory. So if you believe the official story, we have known since way back in Egyptian times and is taught to everybody at a primary school level that we live on the planet Earth and it is a globe. If you believe the conspiracy theorists, this is all a complete lie and in fact the Earth is a flat disc. And again, conspiracy theorists have several different arguments they like to try and put across in order to try and prove that the Earth is actually flat. However, there's a very simple photography exercise you can do that proves this really isn't the case. You don't have to go to the extreme lengths that one flat earther is currently going through in trying to make his own rocket to fire himself a mile into the sky to see, even though it would be cheaper to buy a ticket on a commercial liner that goes 10 times higher. All you need to do is set a camera up static outside on a clear night and take a sequence of pictures looking at the sky. And you'll notice one thing. From every single picture, the stars will move across the sky. This is because of the rotation of the Earth. Now, the flat Earth theory says this is still the case, but we are on a flat disk going around. However, the simple thing that debunks this theory is comparing a sequence of photographs taken in the northern hemisphere versus a sequence of pictures taken in the southern hemisphere. If you try and do this, you will notice that the stars rotate in opposite directions depending on which hemisphere you are in. And this can only be made possible on a sphere. It wouldn't work on a flat plane. Now, I know full well that no amounts of facts or evidence is ever going to dissuade people from believing what they believe. But if you ever come across somebody who's trying to persuade you that these conspiracy theories are in fact true, drop your photography knowledge on them next time.